So when you do these remakes or remasters, you know, you have to update it for modern audiences to a certain degree. Where's the line, like where it's historical preservation versus making it accessible?
I think, you know, that's like a day-to-day creative decision. I mean, I think that one thing that if I go back to like the Battlezone remasters, like the first remaster I worked on, we had the original code, right? And having the original code means the gameplay is 100% the same, right? So it's like if you played the original Croc and you play the modern Croc, the game is the same. Like that platform is always the same place, right? And then we're saying, okay, now what do we do on top of that? So, you know, like in Croc, there were a lot of complaints about the controls. So the PlayStation didn't have an analog controller. It was a D-pad and buttons. And about 2 weeks before Croc shipped, Sony was like, hey, there's a new analog controller. You must support this. And so somebody was like, in a day, you know, put in, okay, this moves this moves that. But we didn't have the learnings. Like, you know, today there's millions of games that use, you know, 2 analog sticks. It didn't exist back then. There was no N64, right? There were no analog controllers in games. Maybe, you know, the Vectrex, but that's, you know, different.
Atari 5200.
5200,
the worst controller.
But there weren't
history.
2.
Yeah.
So we definitely went back and redid all of that because that's like a quality of life thing. But we knew that for everything we fixed, there'd be some fan of the original game that would be like, fuck you, why'd you fix that? And so the original game, because it was D-pad, it had tank controls, right? You would turn and then go forward. And so we were kind of smart because we were like, well, since the modern controller still has a D-pad, the tank controls are still there. You just have to use the D-pad instead of the analog stick. So we did that. And, you know, wherever we could, we put in a switch. Like you can go and flip a switch and play with the old graphics and the old low-res models. You can flip all those retro things on and do that. But there's also the modern stuff. But still, there's always people that are like, why did you do that, you know? And we fixed bugs, right? Because that just seems like no one's going to object to fixing bugs.
Yeah.
And we added some things. But I think, you know, really like the design pillar was just make sure it's true to the original. You know, add frosting.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of what we did was like make it look prettier, make it sound prettier, make it control better, you know, but don't fuck with the magic.
It's kind of like the GameCube on the Switch 2, where they like up-res it. It looks really nice, but it's the same game, but it's just a little bit more accessible, you know, plus with the save states and
I
stuff.
think that works. I mean, we look at some of the other people that do remasters, they don't even like really do the full art treatment. And it's like, it just looks a little too old. We at least try to like, we're not going to make a Call of Duty level art, right? We're not going to get...
So this art's been retouched on Croc. Because it definitely looks better than I remember.
Yeah, because it didn't look that good.
Right, because I'm like, look at this, I'm like, you know, I don't remember it looking like that.
No, we created tools for up-resing the 2D art, all the textures.
Okay.
And we created tools for smoothing all the polygons.
Yeah, plus you have perspective correct textures, which the PlayStation did not have.
And filtering, which the PlayStation didn't have.
Yeah.
But also, like, you know, the idea was to do as much as we could without having to have 100 artists rebuild everything, right? We had the original source code. We didn't have like the original 3D models.
Okay.
So we had cooked 3D, but you know, we tried really hard. Maybe we could have taken that back into 3D Studio somehow, but we didn't have the tools to recook it. Like, so, you know, there was a step where it was like, we could do this for $1 million, or we could do this, but then it would have been $20 million, right? Because we would have had to recreate everything. And then it would never have been true to the original. Because if you rebuild it from scratch, it won't always be exactly the same. So, but we were able to do big things with the textures and the models, and some of the special effects got, you know, recreated from scratch to be nicer and more modern. Wherever we could.